What's going on, everyone? I'm Naila Barrett, and this is the Guestlist. I know, we're back. We're back, everyone. We're back. I didn't think we'd be back so quickly, but when Sound and Music called me and were like, we're doing a Black History Month episode, and Nadine, wants to do one, I was like, absolutely. Yeah, let's get on it. Let's get on it. So if you don't know about the Guestlist, it was originally created as part of International Women's Day, and it was kind of a party. Everyone was invited. It was part of a wider Plus One campaign. If you haven't heard about it, go on Sound and Music website. It's great. I put my heart and soul into it. And we had a 3-part mini-series where I interviewed amazing creatives. And I thought we'd be back next March to do it again, but we're here a little sooner. And I've got an amazing guest, which I've kind of already said her name, so I've spoiler alerted myself. But hi, Nadine.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. I'm so excited that I'm actually here and talking to you. Nadine is amazing, formidable, force, producer, creative, the moment, an icon, a legend. Have I covered everything? I've covered everything.
Thank you very much.
And I am super excited to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
And it feels very, very chill. I kind of like this, It's like,
yeah, it's nice.
It's like we're in a weird kind of living room. I'm really into it. And
Very
I feel
70s.
like very, very 70s. I mean, a bit before my time.
Same.
Okay, good.
Oh, did you think I was that
I don't
old?
think you were 70. No, we need to cut this out. If anyone's listening, we need to cut this part out. But yeah, and I think we should get straight into it.
Yeah, please.
Fabulous. So, if you say your journey is loads of chapters and your whole life's a book, what was your chapter 1? That could be when you was born. We can go back there, or it could just be the start of your journey.
Well, yeah, I mean, I started my journey at, you could say, textiles when I was at school. And that was really kind of an area where I really loved kind of getting involved. And it kind of fed me to the point of, which I'm sure you're going to touch on, is kind of like that kind of fashion area that I started off in. So it's that kind of space in Deptford Green. I'm from South East London, so I started off in Deptford Green and then went to Lewisham College and did fashion design.
Amazing.
So yeah, that could be like my earliest point is that if I was writing a book, even though I'll struggle writing that book, being dyslexic. But yeah, that was the kind of starting points for me.
Amazing. And I'm really excited to touch on your fashion journey and how it kind of led to music. But we've got to start with why you're here. Why are you here? Why are you with Sound and Music? We're going to talk about the BMC residency. So can you tell people, what is that? What's it about?
So I did a podcast for the BMC, British Music Collection.
Which she won. Now continue.
So at the end of last year, there was a call out on social media, which I saw on social media, for a digital residency to focus on any kind of audio piece that you had around. I think it was kind of to whatever you want to do really, and I wanted to look at Black individuals. So yeah, I just kind of submitted Thursley. Thursley is pretty much a platform that speaks to women or gender non-conforming sound artists about their work from start to finish, and how they kind of, what influences them and what kind of gets them motivated. And for this one, I wanted to focus on Black women in music and look at the archive from the British Music Collection and see how those artists kind of operate within the archive, or who's not in the archive, and just kind of explore it underneath what Thursley does, which is more of a kind of conversational style podcast. So yeah, that was I didn't know that I was the only one, to be honest. I thought it was various other people were going to be picked as well, and but yeah, it's really nice to know that I kind of won that. It was great.
I love when you drop that in. I thought there'd be other people, but
I really
lonely at the top. Slowly at the top, everyone. It's slowly at the top. No, amazing. And you've touched on Thursley Radio, and we're definitely going to go into that a little bit more. But still on the BMC residency that you did, what were kind of the challenges you faced? Because as you said, you were in it on your own, so to say. So kind of, what did you face?
It was a really funny time because it was all kind of just coming out of the pandemic still. So it was a time of trying to still figure out what are the stepping stones I'm going to take with my own personal career, as well as trying to pull together this idea that I kind of submitted. So it was one of the challenges, I think, was to access the archive physically, like go to the archive and see what was operating. it's that plain old annoying thing where, you know, it's too expensive to leave London to travel the rest of the UK, but it's cheap to leave London to go to Europe. So, you know, it was facing that understanding of the way that our landscape works, and then also how far the archive is. Even though it also sits in digitally, the whole idea that I initially had was to take a few artists up to kind of explore the archive and to speak to the archivist and see what we could look at and how we could kind of discover Black artists in that realm. So that changed dramatically because of the access of it. So that was really one of the challenges. And then to really think quickly on my feet about how I could then change that concept. So then we spoke to Zana, who's the artist that we spoke to from Inventing Waves, and they have a record label. I don't want to go into too much, but they have a record label that
free promo, everyone, free promo.
They have a record label that just is all about researching, and so I decided to just frame it very just on them. So my voice is never heard in the podcast at all.
I like that. Like, you're kind of like this omniscient spirit. It's kind of, I'm everywhere, but I'm nowhere. I really like that. We talked about the challenges you faced, but what were like the things you were like, this is like, yes, this is amazing. Like, I'm really finding my feet. Did you have any moments where you were like, I'm right where I need to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's pulling the team together. You know, I was exec producer on this podcast.
Jeez.
And I wanted to pull together people that I've worked with underneath an organisation called Multi-Track Fellowship. And that was something that I did in lockdown, which was a group of people that was selected to be paired with organisations in the industry to kind of excel ourselves in audio. So it was really amazing to also meet people in the first time, because everything was done, all these programs are done via Zoom, but to actually meet people in the first time and work with them. You know, you're watching them over Zoom doing their kind of audio editing and talking about their craft, and then to meet them in real life and to sit back and to plan with them about how we're going to kind of create this piece was really nice. That's when I really kind of felt like I had everything quite under control, because I was kind of moving parts slowly and using people's artistries to kind of get the kind of outcome that I wanted. So that was really fun to do.
Amazing. So let's rewind it back now, because we've kind of talked about where you are now, but let's talk about where you started with fashion. And I'd really love if you could touch on more kind of how you got into fashion. And we're going to talk about the fashion industry a bit, because I don't know. I think there's still some challenges that we're facing today. But yeah, within your fashion world, like, what did you do? Like, explain to everyone listening.
So I studied menswear design at Ravensbourne University. Which is now situated right next to the O2 in North Greenwich.
Amazing.
Back in the days, I think it was towards Orpington a little bit.
Okay.
So still in London, but it kind of felt like you were leaving London. And that was quite nice, because the rest of the universities were in central London, and then we were a little bit outside of, you know, where things were happening mostly. So we had huge dye facilities, huge printing facilities, and just like situated, stable places to do your work as a fashion department. The minute we moved to the O2, it was that kind of classic inkling of when you know, money has been brought into London and businesses are developing through universities. So it was kind of an empty building, and you could have this idea that you could have flexible work where you could work wherever. But fashion needs to be a little bit more stable. We have our machines, we have all our kind of like big tools, so we kind of need to be quite stable. So having that kind of freedom away from the hype of the central London gave a lot of creativity for that university. And then coming into more of London, you started to get this kind of more business sense. So it was great to have those two different balances, even though it was quite a significant change when you're studying, you know, to move buildings so quickly. It was kind of a nice understanding for me, because then I left university in 2012 with a menswear collection, and I kind of went into this routine of like trying to push my collection as much as I can. So I went down a route of doing loads of trade shows. I went to Paris to do, I think it's called Who's Next Paris, which is a trade show there, and they planted my stuff everywhere, like on the front cover, on these kind of big billboards. It was amazing, quite overwhelming. I didn't expect that when I arrived, to get this this great reception from people about my collection. But it was a time where I had to wear multiple hats. Had to be a buyer. Had to be, someone does marketing. I had to be someone that does like manufacturing. It was a really challenging time, but I was really welcome to it. I was really excited about this, and it was a time where there wasn't loads of like the industry wasn't looking at young designers in the way that they are today. And it was around London where there was Menswear Fashion Week that came about, and everyone was kind of buzzing about Menswear Fashion Week. And I had to go into trade shows, and just going to trades just to look at what the established designers were doing and how they were trading was like a significant part of me trying to create a business. And then I bumped into Mr. Hare, Mark Hare. His brand is called Mr. Hare. And he kind of mentored me slowly, and it was just small little things like going for a coffee and just talking about how he kind of developed his work and what he's doing currently. Unfortunately, his business no longer exists, but it was just a super very nurturing moment for me as a young designer to get that communication from someone who's been in the industry so long and then decided to do his own footwear thing. And it was different. He's working in more of accessory department, and I was working more apparel, so moving across all of the kind of genres from outerwear to kind of entry level pieces. If it's bags or whatever, I was trying to do the whole range, but I learned that I was doing too much. Just crazy.
Every creative, every freelancer ever comes to that point where they're like, I've burnt out, actually.
Yeah.
There's nothing of me left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I this stuff, I got the government funding at the time.
Amazing.
That was kind of David Cameron's thing that he put in place. And I don't want to, I'm not a conservative fan, but that was a really amazing process that he put in, because it was a 6% interest, super low. To pay back. So I had two 7K loans, and I had to slowly pay that back, and it was manageable. So I learned about managing my money through that process, which was quite amazing achievement to be able to do. And that was for me. I could go to factories, I could go to other trade shows, I could do all these different things, which is super helpful in understanding how I can kind of manage things. The downfall of that was there was loads of people that there was in that program that were more kind of CEO people. There wasn't people from fashion.
Yeah.
So you were actually talking to people that understood business but didn't understand the fashion business, which was a lot different. So yeah, it was a really buzzing time. But yeah, from there, I kind of tried my best to kind of move it as much as I can. But it wasn't shifting. It wasn't shifting because the industry wasn't looking for young Black designers at that time. They are today. And it's amazing that we've come to this place where we can have young Black designers headhunt, houses and so forth and so forth.
Amazing.
But it wasn't my time. So I moved on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go too much into the financial aspect because, the pound's weaker than ever. Liz Truss, I mean, I can say what I want. This isn't going to make the edit. But financially, do you think there's a barrier? There was a barrier for you entering fashion. Do you feel like it could have been a lot easier if?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Even though, as I said, there was those kind of government funding schemes, it was like understanding the finance of fashion is so different from someone who's like, I'm on the board of Marks and Spencer's. It's like, that's great, that you're in that position, but you're not on the side of manufacturing. From design to manufacturing is a different process. You can be on the board of something, but you have to be at the lower ground to understand what fashion designers are thinking and how fashion shows are run, models, trade shows. All of that is so costly, and that information was not being provided because they couldn't match accordingly to what designers are thinking at that time. And also the fashion industry wasn't having this business sense. That was a time where business and fashion was starting to really get in the flow that it is today. Before that, there was no sense to business or fashion. It was all about showing and showing up and the what do you call it? Those runways and who's at the front table and all that
who's on the
chair
front seats.
Thank you. All that kind of stuff. And then that had to change because the industry knew that there was so many young designers that were getting into debt.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely was a barrier. I think the main barrier was that people wasn't acknowledgeable of Black designers at all at that time. I mean, we talk about, people being head of houses today, but people forgetting that Oswald Boateng was the head of Givenchy back in the days, and that's kind of gone out the window. No one even remembers that as a thing. So it's kind of, we can celebrate that today, and a lot of Black designers being celebrated for their position day, but in those days it wasn't a thing. And those days was like 2012, 2013. It's not
That's
not
recent.
long. Yeah,
That's recent.
exactly.
In my book, anyway. In my book, that's very recent.
It's not that long.
So tell me, we're going to move on to how you kind of transitioned into sound and creation and producing. But like, what's the maddest thing that happened? Like, tell me. I
mean, there's many. I think that there's this idea. I think especially for them, I don't know how it is now, that interns stay overnight.
Huh?
Yeah.
Pardon?
And there was a lot of that happened. And today he's a huge designer.
What do you mean overnight? Sorry,
so
I'm gonna need. What do you mean?
They kind of like sleep overnight.
Where?
Yeah.
Where?
Wherever there's space to do that.
Pardon?
It's crazy. And I don't want to say names. He's a huge designer today.
Yeah, you can tell me off camera.
Yeah,
you can tell me off camera.
But at the time, he was buzzing at the time, but he wasn't head of a house as he is today. And he's a few of his interns decided that they would sleep on his kind of kitchen floor because it was all done in his home.
Excuse me?
And I was like, I gotta go home. I gotta head off. Which has annoyed him, but I mean, it was not a work ethic that I was familiar with.
My sister, it should not be a work ethic anyone is familiar with.
Exactly.
Are you crazy? Sleeping on someone's kitchen floor.
Yeah, I know.
No.
So I was like,
they're better than me.
I was like, I'm not at that level of wanting to impress someone that much. So I headed off home, and I went back in the next morning because that's what everyone else does in the working world.
Because that was the normal thing to do. But I mean, it says something about the fashion industry that those people that did sleep felt so much pressure. Like, I mean, they say that the fashion industry is cutthroat. I mean, I wouldn't know, you'd know more than me. But I'd imagine I might be thinking, if I don't sleep on this man's kitchen floor, I will never work a day again.
We're not getting paid, so... How is that? But,
you were never getting paid.
So there's no. It's like, it's ridiculous. It's all because of, if I do that, then maybe I'll get in this position, then get paid, and
it's a slippery slope, isn't it?
Yeah.
1 minute you're on the kitchen floor, next minute you're in the garden. You never know where you're going.
Exactly.
You never know where you're going. But okay, let's move on, because we could put. It's a whole nother podcast. It's a whole nother episode about the fashion industry. But for you, how did that transition begin from fashion and to like music and sound? Like, was it just one day you were on the kitchen floor and you were like, nah, I can't live like this anymore?
Well, I started working for a designer called Margaret Howe, and I was there for 4 years as assistant manager, also working in their kind of back of house as well, which is great, helping them with like their fashion shows and so forth. But then they have this great thing about music. You can make your own playlists and stuff, and one of my managers made the playlist for the stores. So what you hear in the store is actually the staff members made that playlist, which is quite nice. So me and Andy would always go back and forth on music and radio shows and so forth and so forth. And I remember that when I was creating my collection, I actually based it off the film Rockers. And just kind of looking at the Caribbean culture, that flamboyant dressing, those pop colours. And I was looking and listening to loads of different music at the time. And when I was working at Margaret Howe, we would always be playing stuff that we wasn't meant to be playing when the store was quiet. It was going back and forth on different kind of reggae artists. And it just brought me back to a time where I was like, actually, I've always had music and as a sense of influence and a sense of like creation. So I wanted to just kind of move on from that area. And so I left Margaret Howe, not really knowing what I was going to do. And I did 2 volunteer programs. I did permaculture gardening and sound engineering. And I could have went down Is that funny to you?
It's very different.
They are
Very
very
different. Very different. Now, I mean, that would have been interesting explaining to your nearest and dearest. Your career choices are a bit, they're all over the place.
They are, to be honest, they are.
I like that. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there.
It's true. And it is random, and I could have went down a kind of more permaculture gardening route.
You know what? I would have loved it.
But I decided to kind of work with sound, and I actually made a little kombucha podcast for the permaculture garden because they were doing a workshop on kombucha.
Look at that, guys. It all links. It all links.
Yeah. So I took my two learnings and I put it together. But yeah, from doing that, I was like, this is great. And then I went into Morley College and did level 1 sound engineering course. And they were setting up a new podcast department, like literally radio, really fine-tuned equipment. And I decided, they were like, you can put on because you're volunteering, you can put on a show. And the one thing that I loved about designing was the design development. And I was like super curious about artists and like sound artists, musicians, and how they kind of develop their work. One, because my family, my older brother is a singer-songwriter and he works in the music industry. So always seeing how he kind of processes and is inspired by his surroundings. And then also this, my own love of creating work and how I always loved researching and loved that kind of process. I was a bit like, how does everyone else do it? I had friends and close ones that are sound artists, and we would always talk about different type of things, go to different type of exhibitions. So I was like, why don't we just kind of put this on audio? Like, why don't we just record this in a way? And Thursley came about, and the name Thursley is based off the road my grandparents' house.
That's so sweet. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Didn't even know that. That's so sweet.
So that kind of was a whole kind of shell for me, and yeah, that's how it kind of started. It's based off curiosity about what inspires people and why they create the work the way they do it.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I love when someone's like, the name was like my grandfather's middle name. Like, I'm really into that kind of thing. I'm like, yeah, let the legacy continue. But yeah, we touched on Thursley Radio a little bit earlier. We're going to do it again. And you kind of explained the origin of the name, but what was the purpose that drove it? Like, there has to be a reason you were like, there's a space in this industry and I need to fill it.
It centers on women or gender non-conforming artists. I wanted to kind of just give a bit more space to that. It's not new, there's loads of platforms that are really centering on particular kind of demographics. But I think it came from a personal position. One of my exes is a sound artist, and working with them and seeing their work develop, and they were going through a process where they were changing their pronouns. And that was kind of, and they're the first person, Vivian Griffin, that I recorded. And
Amazing.
Understanding that we are in a very fluid world where things change, people are discovering, exploring. I needed to open up and be considerate of that. So, it is about women and how they have changed the music industry and how they contribute, but also about people from non-binary, trans, gender non-conforming, and that is a very important thing. So I just wanted to give space to that understanding. And that was the driving force, was to hear their stories. And I think it was growing up from very young as well, going to art exhibitions, if you go for school, or your parents, or friends take you, or whatever, you always do that tour. And that tour where you get that one tour person, he tells you what Picasso was thinking. Yeah. And you're thinking, how do you know that?
You wasn't there.
You wasn't there.
You wasn't there.
Exactly. It's crazy, right?
It's so mad.
It's mad.
And you take it for gospel, don't you? You're like,
wow.
He was thinking that. Yeah. Wow, how does this lady know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it makes me think, why do we wait for artists to like pass away? Before we can like talk about their work? Why don't they talk about their own work?
Yeah.
So I also wanted to kind of highlight that, is like give artists the platform to speak about their own work.
Yeah, no need to guess.
No, exactly.
Why do we need to guess? Get me in a recording studio. I tell everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know I'm posing the questions, but it's from a place of curiosity, because I'm not a music head. You may ask this question later on. What is music for you? I'm not a music head. I'm not crate digging. I'm not out there trying to find the most craziest sound effect thing. Like I'm not a person who studies music in a way, you know. It's more intuitive for me, you know. It's more like
She said she feels it in her soul, everybody.
Yeah.
It's different. It's different round here. She feels it. You lot can't relate. But yeah, sorry, keep
exactly.
going.
That's how it kind of is for me.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's a kind of, it's a more of a connection in that sense. And so I speak from a place of curiosity and quite naive with what I'm kind of bringing to the table. And I didn't know if it was going to work. I was in my head, I was like, all the time we see kind of like white men talk about music in a very intense way because they've studied it and they've spent years collecting it and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think this is going to work for me. But what kind of like sealed the deal was when Vivian walked away and it all kind of aired and stuff. And Vivian was saying the amount of feedback that they've received, you know, about their practice, like it's helped other people understand their practice. And that was the best feedback I could ever receive. I was like, that's what the show's meant to do. It's for the artist to talk about their own work and what kind of gets them going. And then if other people around them, you know, if it's funding applications, if it's institutions that want to kind of bring them in, if they can listen to that podcast and go, oh, we get Vivian Griffin a bit more now. You know what I mean? Then it's kind of like, I've done the job. You know, I've allowed them to use this platform to speak about their work, you know, and that makes me really happy.
Definitely. I think it's a really human thing to only value people after they've died, and that it kind of transcends into art. And it's like any answer you would have given me isn't as exciting as one I can imagine. So cool, you've died and your work was really inspiring, but like, what if I put my own spin on it?
Yeah.
And now I'm an art instructor person, and I've got 30 kids from some primary school in Hackney, and I'm telling them this is what Vivian meant. Yeah. And they're like taking it for gospel. And it's not necessarily true. But look, I don't want to like morning radio host you with this next question, but what would you say to people who are like, you're excluding people? Why are you only focusing on women and gender non-conforming? Why are you, people might say, why are you anti other people? So who is Thursley for? Like, who is it for? Is it for everyone or is it just for two categories?
That's a good question. I mean, it's not excluding anyone, but to be honest, it's not excluding men at all. I think definitely down the line, we want to definitely work with men or different genders. But it's very important to just kind of give the understanding that for many years, women or gender non-conforming people have been on the lower end when it comes to the artistry of music, especially because when we think about musicians, we always question their sanity where they were, you know. We don't do that with men, you know.
That's so true.
And,
That's so true. Well, that was like a mic drop in my head. That's so true. You never question it.
No.
But with women, you're like, must have been mad.
Must be mad.
Even those people that like float and they're gender fluid, you're like, you must have been crazy. You're not sane. The work you're producing isn't of a place of sanity. But men were like, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
That's so true. Sorry, continue.
I literally was watching the David Bowie film the other day, and the questions they were asking David Bowie about, it wasn't even about his music.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's just all about, but why do you dress like that? And where are you? And, you know, you bisexual. What does that mean? And it's just like, it was nothing to do about his music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's true. It's too much is being put on those things. And I just want to give a platform that centers their artistry. And
absolutely.
And I think it's important to also understand that nothing comes out of the thin air. We're all inspired by something, right? Absolutely. So it's quite interesting to see what makes this person tick. And they're only going to give us a certain amount, you know. They're not going to give us everything. Yeah.
But I'll take what I can take, you know. We're grateful.
Yeah.
Might be some Oliver Twist. Please go have some more. Just a little bit more. Yeah.
So it's just trying to do that unthinking. And I think that's what Thursley as a platform is providing. We're not saying men or any other kind of category that has that same energy as men is you know, worse or doesn't need to be shined on. It's just giving a little bit more to what is always being depleted in life. And I think, you know, I hope I do it well. I hope I get it kind of where I want it to be. But that's where it's at, to be honest.
So let's talk about the music industry, because we've already ripped into the fashion industry, and, you know, it's only right. I want to know, what has surprised you the most about the music industry? Like, I'm sure you had a lot of preconceptions, and some of them you would have found to be true and some of them not true. But, like, what have you been like, rah, like, Is that how they run things around here?
I think one thing I was told is that not to over question an artist. And I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that, you know? And again, when I was talking to Viv, Viv was like, no, you were kind of making me just draw me back to a particular time to rethink my steps and to reevaluate where I'm at today. So that was something where I was like, that's an interesting one, you know, how you're interviewing artists. And I think, again, in that kind of music realm, if you're not super knowledgeable or you're not studied it in a particular way, you're kind of made to feel like you don't have the qualifications to speak or to question further than what the artist is asking or what the artist is kind of replying as. And I was like, for me, that was kind of a thing. Again, just going back to the previous question, our positioning as a woman, you know, holding this podcast up, and they felt that I needed to not keep prodding a question across. And the whole thing is like, as I'm saying, I'm coming from a place of curiosity, and I want the artist to kind of really rethink their steps and take their current self back into their old scenario where they kind of created that music, and say, was I really thinking that and feeling that at the time, or was society at that particular place that made me...
You pushed it onto me.
Yeah. So it's just trying to get a question as much as possible. So that was probably one thing. It's not a huge thing. That's probably one thing I felt. Of course, as a woman in the music industry, I'm going to be told what I shouldn't do, especially I'm hosting my own show. Hosted, created, you know, and I'm being told, don't question that much.
You see, you're a better woman than me. I'd have been like, look, cut the cameras. I'm storming out. There's no way you're telling me what to do. No, yeah. I mean, I feel like so many of like my friends who create music and stuff are always told like, no, you can't do this, or no, don't act like that, or no, you shouldn't use slang, or you shouldn't do this. And here's me like, I'm hearing it. I'm just here. That's really interesting. But I'd be curious to know about what hasn't surprised you in the music industry. What was you like, yeah, I saw this coming. I knew this was coming.
Oh, it hasn't surprised me. I think coming out of lockdown and reaching out to different artists, try and get them on the platform, try and talk to them, and then, I mean, maybe it's because of the time as well, but then things being cancelled and them going towards institutions that are more known, and I couldn't fault them for it. You know, we were moving out of that position, and you're going to get more recognised if you go to this platform than you're going to go to little old Thursley, and no one really knows about.
Not little old. No, guys. After this podcast, Thursley's going global. I keep calling it a podcast. It's being filmed, so hi if you're watching, or you're listening, or you're seeing me. But Thursley, don't ever do that in front of me. Don't ever call it your little anything. Okay? It's a big boy thing.
Thank you.
Continue.
Thank you.
I might even edit that out. So if you're hearing that, no, I'm not having that. But sorry, continue.
Yeah. So it was going from So there's like, how am I going to grab and get those artists to stay on board if I'm not an establishment that is as credible as these other places?
But you're as big. That's what I'm going to say. I'm like, this is the biggest thing that the British have ever seen. Cool. So I'm quite interested to know, when it comes to the music industry and the change that you're trying to make, are they going to let you? Or are they always going to try and, not now, no, and just keep shooing you to the side? Like, do you think they're going to let you?
Yeah, probably they would.
And are you going to fight back?
No, not really.
If you need someone to... I'm actually here, guys. If you need someone to fight your corner, I swear, give me the time and place.
Thank you. But I don't think that's what's needed. You know, I'm not really wanting to have
fight. Sorry, guys.
Well,
we don't endorse violence.
We don't endorse violence. But it's the approval. I'm not looking for approval from the industry at all. So if they want to, you know, mask me off or say, look, this is not really what is the industry is about, then they can do that. But I'm working with artists in a way that is not a commercial way that is known, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
That's like a roundabout way of saying something.
Yeah.
You know, I'm working with a bit more finer details here, you know.
Yeah.
And these individuals want to have a space to talk about themselves that is going to be, you know, considered And I think it's not about profiting
Mm.
off their work or their
Mm.
words about themselves.
Mm.
It's about giving themselves the autonomy to own their own legacy. And the music industry doesn't do that.
No, of course it doesn't.
So I don't think we would say Thursley is solely about a music industry. I think we're about art and, you know, what that means to the artists, but also what that means to the person who's perceiving the art.
But you've talked about so many amazing artists that you've worked with or encountered or been there. I don't know if you've got anyone that you're like, yeah, this is the right platform just to give them a shout out, say hi. It's a very mum, hi if you're watching moment.
Yeah, I mean, who am I listening to now? Let's have a look at my my Spotify real quick. The one artist that I've been playing quite recently is someone called Jane Inc.
Tell me.
And they've got a song called Plundered into Sand. I think they're a Canadian artist.
Oh, amazing.
And they're great. I really like their work. It's kind of folky. It's got really a disco vibe to it as well. So that's like one artist that I'm definitely kind of like into. And then Santai Gold.
Ooh, who's that?
Santai Gold.
Don't look at me like that, Nadine.
Okay.
Don't look at me like that,
it's
please.
okay. That's great. That's the great thing about music. It's all about discovery, right?
Yeah. What genre are they?
They're kind of like, say like electric, indie kind of poppy.
Nadine, does it look like I listen to electric?
I don't know.
That's true. That is very true.
There's no face to these things.
There is no face, but I just feel like, look at me. You know I don't listen to electric. I'm not cool enough. I'm literally not cool enough. I'm going to start now, though. I'm going to start.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Santai Gold.
Santai Gold?
Yeah,
I'm putting it in my Spotify right now. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, no.
I'm looking.
I think you do. No, and they've got a song called Witness on their new album. So there's two songs that I've kind of like popped in. I mean, those people are more kind of up there, kind of established, maybe.
Yeah.
You can say commercial
Yeah.
individuals, but yeah, that's that. They have the reason why I like those one songs is one is kind of got this kind of folky storytell, and the other one is kind of has like a lot of noctives of screaming in it with Santai Gold's track.
Screaming?
Well, not screaming, but you
know
know
I'm a very scared person. I'm not listening to this music now. I actually can't watch horror movies, guys. This is giving me scary.
Word. I think
you've used screaming now. I'm not listening to that. I'm not listening to anyone screaming at me, please.
Well, definitely check out Santai Gold's stuff because
I will.
They're good.
I will, and I'll email you and I'll let you know what I thought.
Yeah, maybe I should take you to an experimental sound night.
Yeah. Amazing. I actually
Yeah.
would be down for that. I'm trying to like do things I wouldn't normally do.
Nice.
You know, just to like live, laugh, love.
Yeah.
So I'm like totally down, and hopefully the rest of the Sound of Music team will let us drag them along too.
Yeah,
and we'll all go.
That'd be nice.
I know, it would be nice. Oh my god, we like planned a little like day out. It's quite cute. It's quite cute. And then is there any organisations like other than Sound of Music that you'd like to shout out and like that helped you, or is there a person that's like kind of an organisation that helped you?
Yeah, I think Multi-Track Fellowship definitely. As I said before, being able to use that as a place to get a kind of collaboration with individuals. If I didn't have that as a thing that I got involved with, I don't know how I would have kind of created this show. But yeah, they're great. What they do is they pair you with industries. And I was paired with Little Dot Studio, which is quite an interesting one because they are more kind of comms and kind of advertisement. And,
Okay.
And they had a small podcast area, and that kind of brought me into an advertisement just on my own personal career thing in that kind of advertisement world. So yeah, a Multi-Track Fellowship, definitely check them out. They've got a group of people for this year. And so super excited to see what they do because we were the lockdown year, unfortunately. So they're going to be more in real life, which is going to be quite fun.
Yeah. It's so weird. Whenever anyone talks about lockdown now, I'm like, oh yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like, you know, they say when it's a traumatic event and your brain forgets. Like,
I think so. Yeah.
I genuinely don't remember being locked up for a year. Like, when did that happen? I don't remember that happening.
And it wasn't that long ago. I mean,
It wasn't.
we literally, it's just like beginning of this year, right?
Yeah.
End of last.
And yeah, so like end of last,
we were doing this whole
we were still kind of
Christmas thing.
in, out, shake it all about.
Yeah.
That's not trademark, by the way, those lyrics.
So it is kind of like, we all got to be gentle. They say that we're in a traumatic society now. Right?
Here we are.
Or anxious society.
You're telling me.
Like, it's just...
You're telling me.
Fatigue society, that's it. Everyone's like super fatigued.
Yeah, everyone's tired. But why would we not be? You know what, let me not. It's going to get cut out, guys. There's literally no point in me talking about it.
I could go on and on and on, right?
I could go on and on about why I think everyone's tired.
It's the COVID fatigue.
Yeah, it's COVID fatigue, and it's also
like,
these people that have been around for the last 12 years.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know, some people might call them the government.
Yeah.
I think people are like sick and tired of not being able to heat their homes. There's this whole blackout thing that's going to happen next
it's
year.
The war. Come on.
What's going on?
But this country loves the war, though, don't they?
Let me tell you, put me in Downing Street right now. Put me in Downing Street right now. No one's electricity's going off. No one's heating's going off. Not when I'm around.
I mean, to be honest, that shows a really good example about how we need to own our own stuff. Yeah. Like, the fact that it was all kind of being outsourced from Russia, for me, I was just like, honestly?
Yeah.
And then they want to talk about that people don't have enough jobs or people don't... all these kind of... It's like, well, you just outsourced all of it when you could have kept it in-house.
Yeah.
And then we all could have,
you
know, got some more jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But... yeah, it's a funny government. And do you know what's funny? Everyone says we've had government for 12 years. But people have been saying that last year and the year before that. So they've been about 14, 15 years.
I don't know. I've been saying, I read the newspaper. They said 12 years.
I think they've been a bit longer than that.
It feels really long. It feels really, really long. And, you know, the kind of impact they're having on the creative industries and telling people to retrain in tech and all this thing. Guys, do you think I can code a computer? Don't try and put me in tech. I can't do that, please.
I think it'd be great in permaculture gardening.
You know what? It's grown on me. No pun intended. It really has grown on me. But cool. We're going to move on because I feel like we could really, maybe Sound of Music, please, can we do another episode on the government if you'd let us? I really want to touch on... well, I really want to give you a moment to shout yourself out. This is the you don't know who's listening section that I thought about on a random Wednesday and was like, I'm going to put that section into the guest list. You don't know who's listening. It might just be my mum. Hi, Mum, if you're listening. I know. she's not going to listen if it's been as long as we've taken to record this, just to let you know. But yeah, you don't know who's listening. Shout yourself out. Shout yourself out. Just talk about yourself. I really want to give you that moment, guys. This section isn't polished, but Nadine is.
I'm like, oh.
I
mean, thank you. I mean, yeah, we're definitely always looking for funding. And
hope you're listening.
We're I would say shout out to any kind of artist that wants to have a platform to kind of talk about themselves, really. I use Thursley as like a residency. Where artists can take the time to kind of think about who they are, who they were, who they're becoming. So if anyone kind of wants to explore themselves, then yeah, just reach out. I think that would be great because I'm always up for like sitting back and listening and researching what people have done. Yeah. And to kind of collaborate with an artist in that way, it would be great. So yeah. I'll give you a shout out for that one. You've
really inspired me. I mean, I kind of want to show up to like Thursley Radio in a mustache, being like, "You do not know me. Please interview me." That kind of vibe.
I can see you do that.
No, honestly, like mustache, like being like, "I don't know what you speak of." Like, I want to be a sound artist. Like, come on. But amazing. So if people want to access Thursley, like, where can they find you? What your socials, your website? Let us know.
Yeah. So we're on Instagram at thursley.radio. And then you can hit our link tree and you can check out episode 1 to 3.
I'm telling you, creatives love a link tree. I've never met a creative that doesn't have a link tree.
But we've spoken to, as I mentioned before, Vivian Griffin, Sanan, and Ian Bailey. So yeah, have a listen back on those episodes. And yeah, just kind of watch the space for more things. We're going to move into more of a physical space. We're going to try and move away from the digital.
Yeah.
Let's say move away, just maybe combined digital with a physical space. And maybe get into some training aspects where artists can train individuals, if it's young youth groups, or they can kind of put on their own kind of exhibitions. So yeah, we're going to look at what we can do with the space. So
amazing. And just as we're wrapping up, I'd love if you could shout out your Discover piece with the BMC
100%,
and just let the people know. Let them know.
So please check out Discover, which is a podcast that I have done exclusively for the BMC, British Music Collection, where we speak to Zana from Inventing Waves about their record label and why they created that record label. And it's a really good piece. You will only hear Zana's voice on it and the way they explain their positioning in the industry, their positioning with sound, music, and record labels. Is great. So yeah, please check that out, and you can check that out on the BMC's website.
Amazing. Check it out. If you're just listening, I'm breaking the fourth wall right now and I'm looking at the cameras. Check it out. I assume it's this one. If not, check it out. The audio guy just gave me the thumbs up. Yeah, it's that camera. Okay, amazing. Well, we're wrapping up the episode now. I'm so sad. It's been a great chat.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you. Get me out the house. I only left my house to turn the lecky off, so it's great. It's absolutely great to be here. Amazing. So, thank you for watching or listening to or just being around the guest list. I'm really into this intuitive thing now. After you were here, you were in this space with us. Whether you're doing your gardening, whether you're do you see what I did there?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
I should actually be a comedian. Sorry. Whether you're doing your gardening, whether you're doing your ironing, whether you're in a current blackout right now, whether the lights have been turned off. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and hopefully we'll be back very well. Nadine, will you be back?
I will be back, yes.
You will be back? Oh, no, that makes me happy. Because I was going to say we'll be back, but I was like, will Nadine be back? It was very that lost puppy moment. Is this the last time I'm going to see her?
Like my dog.
Yeah. The dog's in the other room. Yes. Very, very cute dog. Spanish dog.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
I like to acknowledge the full identity of the dog. But yeah, I'm Naila Barrett. This is Nadine.
Thank you so much.
And this has been The Guest List. Bye!